For over 50 episodes, Kiyaya and Daniel have been here sharing lots and lots of great books. We look forward to the next 50 episodes. Join us every day at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard for Let's Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Maniac Tuesdays and Thursdays continue today, and Dara is back to read the next few chapters of Maniac Magee. Sit back, relax. Kiyaya and I are ready, so let's get cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Are you a singer, an actor, an artist, a crocheter, a knitter, a cross-stitcher, a potter? Are you a crafter? Coming soon to Rude Rangers TV is Crafty Conversations with... That's right, my outspoken friend Kiyaya and I are going to be launching our new show on Rude Rangers TV this spring. Email us at craftyconversations@STITCHINGwolfDesigns.com if you're interested in sharing your story with us. Follow us on our social media accounts. Or check our website out, www.STITCHINGwolfDesigns.com, or give us a call, 516-274-0350. The possibilities are endless. Stories are such an important part of our lives. Join my friend Kiyaya and I for Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel, where we share some of the greatest picture books and chapters from children's and young adult literature to inspire you to keep embedding literacy into your days. I'm Daniel, and Kiyaya and I are here to share this all with you.
Hey everyone, I'm Dara Colon, and today we're going to read chapter 37 of Jerry Spinelli's Maniac Magee. Thus began a series of heroic feats by Maniac Magee. At 20 paces, he hit a telephone pole with a stone 61 times in a row. When the once-a-week freight train hit Elm Street, he started running from the Oriole Street dead end on one rail and beat the train to the park, no sweat. He took off his sneaks and socks and walked nonchalant as you please through the rat-infested dump at the foot of Rayco Hill. The mysterious hole down by the creek, the one you would never reach into, even if you dropped your most valuable possession into it. He stuck his hand in, his whole arm in, all the way to the elbow, kept it there for the longest 60 seconds on record, and pulled it out, dirty but still full of fingers. He climbed the fence at the American bison pen at the zoo. He had suggested this feat himself, everyone else scoffing, and while the mother looked on, kissed the baby buffalo. So it went through February and March of that year, a feat a week. To much of the town, hearing about these things, it was simply a case of the legend adding to itself, doing what legends do. To Russell and Piper McNabb, it was a case of boosting their importance even higher in the eyes of the other kids. Was it not at the brothers' direction that Maniac Magee performed these deeds? And who, after all, is the most amazing, the lion or the tamer? As for Maniac, he understood early on that he was being used for the greater glory of Piper and Russell. He also understood that without him, they would not be going to school every day. For the McNabbs, there was nothing free about public education. A tuition had to be paid. Every week, Maniac paid it. And besides, he loved to meet the challenges they cooked up for him. And then one day, they gave him the most perilous challenge of all. They dared him to go into the East End. And that is chapter 37 of... Hey guys, I'm Dara Colon, and today we're going to read chapter 38 of Jerry Spinelli's Maniac Magee. The witnesses, there were twice 15 this time, went with him as far as Hector Street. They halted at the curb. He crossed the street and went alone. Piper megaphoned after him, "Maniac, come back! We were just kidding! You don't have to!" Maniac just waved and went on. He knew he should be feeling afraid of these East Enders, these so-called black people, but he wasn't. It was himself he was afraid of any trouble he might cause just by being there. It was the day of the worms, the first almost warm after the rainy night day in April, when you bolt from your house to find yourself in a world of worms. They were numerous here in the East End, as they had been in the West. The sidewalks, the streets, the very places where they didn't belong. Forlorn, marooned on concrete and asphalt, no place to burrow, April's orphans. Once when he was little in Hollidaysburg, he had gone along with his toy wheelbarrow, carefully lifting them with his borrowed kitchen fork until the barrel was full, then dumped them into Mr. Snavely's compost pile. And sure as the worms followed the rain, the kids followed the worms. West End, East End, they had poured from their houses onto the cool, damp sidewalks, and if they gave the worms any notice, it was only when they squashed one underfoot. And so as Maniac moved through the East End, he felt the presence of not one, but two populations, both occupying the same territory, yet each unmindful of one another, one yelping and playing and chasing and laughing, the other lost and silent and dying by the millions. "Yo, fish belly," Maniac snapped to. He glanced at a street sign. He was 4 blocks from Hector, deep in the east. Mars Bar came dip-jiving toward him, taller than before, bigger, but still scowling. "Hey, fish! Thought you was gone." Maniac turned to face him fully. Mars Bar did not stop until he was inside Maniac's phone booth of space, inches from his face. They locked eyes levelly, Maniac thinking, "I must be growing too." He said, "I'm back." The scowl fiercened. "Maybe nobody told you. I'm badder than ever. I'm getting badder every day. I'm almost afraid to wake up in the morning." He leaned in closer. "'Cause of how bad I might have got overnight." And Maniac smiled, nodded. "Yeah, you're bad, Mars." He gave a sniff. His smile went a little smirky. "And I'm getting so bad myself. I think I must be half black." Mars' eyes bulged. He backed off. The scowl collapsed and he howled with laughter. His buddies, who were hanging back, stared dumbly. As Mars unwound from his laughing fit, he studied Maniac up and down, aware too that Maniac was studying him. And when he could speak again, he said, "Still them raggedy clothes, huh, fish?" He lifted one foot, posed. "I seen you looking. Like them kicks? Just got 'em." Maniac nodded. "Nice." They were more than nice. They were beautiful. The best, yes, the baddest sneaks he had ever seen. Way better than anything Grayson could have afforded. "I forgot to tell you something else too, fish." "What's that?" "I'm fast. I'm faster. I've been working out. Got my new boss kicks." He sprinted in place, arms and legs positioned to a blur. He stopped. He jabbed a finger at Maniac's nose, pressed it, flattening out it to the end. "See? Guess you were right. Now at least you got a black nose." He laughed. They both laughed. Everybody laughed. Then Mars turned scowly again, saying, "But you ain't black enough or bad enough to beat the Mars man. We gonna race, honky donkey." The race was set up on Plum Street, the long level block between Ash and Jackson. By the time they were ready, half of the kids in the East End were there. From the tiniest pipsqueaks to the high schoolers, the little kids ran races of their own from the curb to the curb. The bigger kids shouldered blusters and dug into their jeans for coins to bet with. For the first time since the last fall, mothers opened windows and leaned out from their second stories. Traffic was detoured from both ends of the block. No one could find string for their finish, so a second-story mother dropped down a spool of bright pink thread. Another problem was the start. First, they had to find a chalk to draw the starting line. When they did, nobody could seem to draw it straight. The result? A stack of starting lines creeping up the street till someone brought out a yardstick and did it right. The next problem came when the starter bumped Gilliam, who was also Mars Bar's best pal, called, "Get ready!" And someone in the crowd yelled, "That ain't what you say! You say, take your mark!" Well, everybody jumped into it then. There was shoving and jawing and almost a fist fight over the proper way to start a race. And finally, there was a compromise, and Bump called, "Get ready, on your mark," at which point someone else called, "Go Mars!" And Bump turned and snarled, "Shut up! When the starter starts, there's no noise." So naturally, someone else called, "Smoke 'em Mars!" And then came, "Waste 'em Mars!" and "Do the honk, barman!" And they might still be calling to this day, had not a single voice separated itself from the others. "Burn 'em, McGee!" It was hands down, laughing and pointing from his perch of the roof of his car. Bump jumped into the let-up. Get set, go! And at long last, mossy from their wait at the starting line, they went. Even as the race began, even after it began, Maniac wasn't sure how to run it. Naturally, he wanted to win, or at least do his best. All his instincts told him that. But there were other considerations. Whom he was racing against, and where, and what the consequences might be if he won. These were heavy considerations, heavy enough to slow him down, until the hysterical crowd and the sight of Mars Bar's sneaker bottoms and the boiling of his own blood ignited his afterburners, and before you could say, "Burn 'em, McGee," he was ahead, the pink thread bobbing in his sights. But he never saw his body break the thread. He only saw the face of Mars Bars, straining, gasping, unbelieving, losing. They went crazy. They went wild. They went totally bananas. You see him? He turned around. He ran backwards. He did it backwards. He beat it. I'm going backwards. Mars Bars tried. He shoved Bumped. You started too fast. I wasn't ready. He shoved the thread holders. You moved it up so he could win. I was gaining on him. He shoved Maniac. You bumped me. You got a false start. You cheated. But his protest drowned in the pandemonium. Why did I do it? Was all Maniac could think. He hadn't even realized it until he crossed the line, and he regretted it instantly. Wasn't it enough just to win? Did he have to disgrace his opponent as well? Had he done it deliberately to pay back Mars for all his nastiness? To show him up and shut him up once and for all? His only recollection was a feeling of sheer, joyful exuberance, himself in celebration, shouting "Amen" in the Bethany church, bashing John McNabb's fastballs out of sight, dancing the polka dot with Grayson. Maybe it was that simple. After all, who asked why otters toboggan down mud banks? But that didn't make it any less stupid or rotten a thing to do. The hatred in Mars Bar's eyes was no longer for a white kid in the East End. It was for Jeffrey McGee, period. The crowd surged with him as he made his way westward. It wasn't clear whether they were glad or not that he had won. only that they had seen something to set them off. They jostled and jammed and high-fived and jived. For everyone who called him White Lightning, 2 more challenged him to race. Right here, baby, you and me, see who's gonna turn his back on who. Maniac kept moving, embarrassed, wishing he could just break out and sprint to the West End, wishing he could duck into the Beals' house and be sanctuaried there and not fear reprisals on them. And just about then, miraculously, 2 little hands were worming into his, 2 familiar voices squealing, "Maniac! Maniac!" Hester and Lester. He snatched them up, one in each arm. He was on Sycamore Street. There was the house, the door opening, Amanda, Mrs. Beal, smiling to beat the band. And that is chapter 38.
Dara, thank you. As always, you do me proud. Kiyaya thinks so too. And we are so thankful that you were able to take part in this fantastic project. Maniac Tuesdays and Thursdays conclude next week with another fabulous guest host. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. And remember, reading is power.